Hi, everybody, and welcome to Lovefraud Live. So, suppose you're in a romantic relationship that you realize is unhealthy, or your instincts are telling you that the person who is in hot pursuit of you is bad news. How do you end the involvement? I'm Donna Andersen, author of Lovefraud.com, and today I'm going to tell you how to dump a sociopath. Now, this is a live streaming show, and I'll answer your questions at the end of my short presentation, so please send them by chat as we go along. When you're romantically involved with a reasonably normal individual, but you know the relationship just isn't working for you, you usually try to spare his or her feelings. You don't come out and say that they're boring or needy or a Neanderthal, even if that's what you feel. Instead, you make up excuses for the breakup. You tell them that you're getting back with an old boyfriend or girlfriend, even if that's a lie. You may say that you're just not ready for a relationship right now, even if that's also a lie. In essence, when breaking up with an okay person who just isn't your type, you try to let them down easy. This is precisely the wrong approach when breaking up with a sociopath. So let's give an example. Perhaps this hot new lover has swept into your life, showered you with attention and affection, and promised you a wonderful future. Initially, you were head over your heels and very excited to be with this person. But because you follow love fraud, you eventually recognized that this person's over the top attention was love bombing. You looked around for more red flags of love fraud, like blaming or the pity play, and you saw them. In the meantime, your instincts have been trying to get your attention. You've been ignoring them, but you no longer can. You've seen the mask slip. There was a flicker of rage or manipulation or perhaps cold indifference. And this person is slowly trying to control you, although presenting it as concern for your welfare or wanting to be with you every moment of every day. You finally have to admit to yourself that this is a bad situation and you need to end it. So, what do? I'm going to tell you how to dump the sociopath. Now, this advice applies if you're in a relationship that does not have complications like kids, property, or massive amounts of money. Now, those kinds of issues make extricating yourself more difficult. So, for today, let's just assume that you and this person are only dating. Here's what you do. You tell the person one time that you do not want any involvement with him or her. You make your decision very clear. I'll give you some words to use. I offer a program called Love Fraud and How to Avoid It for high school and college students. And in it, I teach the students the following rejection statement. It's based on the recommended rejection statement in a book called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker, which is a great book, and he's a security expert that specializes in helping people who are being stalked. So here's the statement. I have no romantic interest in you whatsoever. I am certain I never will. Do not contact me ever again. Brutal. Yeah, this is brutal. Now, with a normal person, you'd worry about hurting their feelings. But remember, if you're dealing with a sociopath, he or she really doesn't have any feelings. Your objective is to make it very clear that you want nothing to do with this person. By the way, yes, you can send the rejection statement by text or email. In fact, I recommend that you do it that way. It's safer for you because if you're not physically with this person, he or she does not have the opportunity to try to hoover you back into the relationship, which means to suck you back in like a vacuum cleaner. In fact, some sociopaths will say that they want to break up in person, that they want closure, and will plead with you to get together. Do not do it. They will surely try to draw you back into the web, and if you return, escaping again will be even more difficult. So, what happens next? After you tell the person one time that you do not want any involvement, you have no further contact with this individual. You do not talk on the phone. You do not send text messages or emails. You certainly don't see the person in the flesh. And you do not visit their Facebook page or other social media. Some sociopaths will immediately start a campaign to win you back. They'll call and text and email incessantly. Do not respond. If this person sends you 30 text messages, and after the 31st message you reply saying, "Leave me alone," you have taught him or her that it takes 30 text messages to get a response from you. So, what do? They start sending text messages again. There are several approaches to avoiding messages from the sociopath. You can block calls and text messages on your phone or change your phone number. You can block emails or change your email address. Now, the downside of these approaches is that the sociopath knows he or she is being blocked and will therefore try to circumvent your efforts. Gavin de Becker, who wrote The Gift of Fear, suggests another approach. He advises you to keep the phone number that the sociopath knows, but get another line. Give your new number to the people who you want to have it. So then the sociopath keeps calling, but the calls go to voicemail, which you never check. The benefit of this approach is that the sociopath believes the calls are going through and you are ignoring them. Now, if the sociopath has been violent towards you, you need to be extra cautious. The most dangerous time for anyone in a violent relationship is right when you leave. The abuser will be angry about losing control over you and may strike back. If the sociopath has not been violent towards you, but you know he or she has been violent towards other people or even animals or property, you should still be cautious. Any history of violence is an indication that the violence could be turned towards you. Therefore, use extra caution when ending the involvement with someone who is violent. If you are living together, leave when the person is not home. Be sure to ask your family and friends for support. In fact, you may even need to get the police involved. When you tell a sociopath that the relationship is over, some will leave you alone for a while, and then, after weeks, months, or even years, they'll return and try to get you back. They will admit that they were wrong in the relationship. They will tell you that they've been to therapy or to church. They will say that they've changed. I'm a new person. They say that you were the best thing that ever happened to them, and they want to try again. Don't fall for it. Sooner or later, you will see the same controlling or abusive behavior as before, except it will probably be worse. And you, having taken them back, you'll have less emotional strength to throw them out again. So, this is the basic outline for dumping the sociopath. Of course, it may need to be modified based on your situation. It's difficult, for example, if you and your ex-partner work together. If that's the case, in all honesty, you may need to look for a new job. So, to repeat, here are the key points. First, tell the person one time, just one time, that you want no further involvement. Then, you have no contact ever again. Remember, no contact is vital. It ends your involvement and it enables you to have the space and presence that you need to recover. Okay, so I see we have some chat going on here. Let's see if there are any questions. All right, Shari says, do sociopaths think about the ones of us who dump them quickly and hard, like revenge thoughts, or do they just move on and forget? Do they get mad that they lost us? Well, here's a key thing. Sociopaths are not all the same. So any of the possibilities that you mentioned are possible in some cases. Some sociopaths will just say, forget it, and just move on. In fact, they probably have multiple other people on the line already, since most sociopaths cheat. Some will get angry and try and get back with you, and maybe try and get revenge. So any of those situations is possible. That's why it's kind of important for you to figure out, what the possible scenarios could be. I will say that, the sooner you recognize that this person is problematic, and the sooner you end it, the better off you are, because there's less involvement, less investment, on your part and on this person's part. But the bottom line is, I can't give you a firm answer on what they all do because they aren't all the same. So you'll just have to think of possible scenarios and how you would deal with it. Okay, what else do we have? Tria says, or Tyra Nicole, can a sociopath actually be in love with someone? Meaning, can they really be hurt after a breakup? I have identified someone as a sociopath where he was very hurt about an ex leaving him. The key to the sociopathic person, to all these personality disorders, is what they call a lack of affect, and affect means emotions. Depending on which disorder it is, because let me repeat what I've said in other videos. When I talk about a sociopath, I'm using the word sociopath as an umbrella term for someone who may have antisocial, narcissistic, borderline, histrionic, or psychopathic personality disorders. And these disorders are very similar, and what they have in common is that the people who have them exploit and manipulate others, including us, but they aren't all the same. So there are some differences among them, but especially the people who have antisocial, psychopathic, and narcissistic personality disorders. The key of these disorders is that they really do not have the ability to love. That's what's missing. That's what's missing in these individuals, is that they cannot love like the rest of us do. And by love, I mean that there are three components of love, and there's actually research on this. The three components are that somebody wants attachment. You want to be with the person that you're in love with. Sex, that's pretty self-explanatory. And the third component of real love is caregiving. That means if you truly love somebody, you want to take care of them. You want what's best for them. So sociopaths can do the first two. They definitely want to be with someone who they think is special. They certainly want sex, but they do not do caregiving. They just simply cannot put anybody else's interests before their own. So if this person thought that he was broken up about a previous relationship, it may be that he considered the person, whoever the involvement was, to be his property, because that's typical of a sociopath. They look at the rest of us as possessions, and they can get disappointed or angry when they lose their possessions. But it's not love. And that's the bottom line. It is not love. At least love the way we know it, which means attachment, sex, and caregiving. So, no, the person cannot love. Okay, what else do we have? What does it mean, Donna, when the sociopath is the one who dumps you in a marriage? Well, couple of things. First of all, sociopaths get bored. I mean, this is actually one of the problems of the disorder. Again, especially antisocials, narcissists, and psychopaths. They eventually just get bored and may get to the point where they just don't want to do it anymore. That's one thing. They also tend to be exploiters, so it's quite possible that they've taken everything that they can from you, realize that there's nothing left, so there's no point in hanging around. Or a better opportunity has come along. You know, they tend to be opportunists, and they found someone who has more money or more connections or a bigger house or whatever, and so it's like, okay, they don't need you anymore, they're moving on. So, I mean, those are typical scenarios, and any one of them could be the reason that a sociopath dumps you. Okay, let's see. All right, so my soon-to-be ex lives in the same town as me. Divorce is not final yet. Kids are grown. Have not met face-to-face in a year. What should I do when I inevitably bump into him? Well, definitely be prepared. I mean, you might want to think in advance of what some scenarios could be. Probably, since you have kids, the best thing is probably to just kind of be cordial but not engaged. You know, kind of say, hello, how's it going, and move on. You know, I mean, I don't even necessarily want to start a conversation, but the thing is that if you just ignore him or seem to be bitter, he's going to use that as an excuse to smear you with your children and other family members and other members of the community. So you may just want to say hello. And the other thing that would be good is for you to work on your own recovery so that, you know, you can just say, hi, yeah, and I'm doing great. See you later. You know, I mean, to be living your life and to be happy would really kind of, you know, be a way to get back at him in a way. So the idea is that, you know, since it is a small community, he would use it as an excuse. So you don't want to give him an opportunity to launch a smear campaign. So, you know, just kind of, you know, be cordial but cool and not engaged, but, you know, don't walk away in a huff, because then he would use that as an excuse to badmouth you. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, how young can one be when they are in touch that they are sociopathic? Well, this disorder tends to come out with puberty. So some people have it, you know, a lot of people get it, or it starts to come to fruition age 12, 13, 14, 15, although there are certainly some cases where children exhibit signs. So if this happens, there's the possibility that the parents may have brought someone to therapy, and they may get a diagnosis, and, you know, maybe the kids know about this, or they may get some symptoms diagnosed, and I mean, everybody who reads can go on the internet and start looking at things. So it is possible for someone who is young to come to the conclusion that they may have sociopathic traits. Now, the issue here is that, especially if they're teenagers, I mean, like all teenagers are somewhat sociopathic. They're all acting out, and so the hard part is for, and this is an issue in education scenarios, is that some kids just grow out of it. Some kids are maturing, and once they get a little older, they stop being that way, and some don't. And it's really hard to tell, when kids are teenagers, which ones are going to grow out of it and which ones are not. So that's another reason why they won't diagnose kids or people who are like under 18, because as kids are changing, and hopefully they'll outgrow it, but sometimes they don't. So for any of those reasons, the person may have an indication that they may have a problem, and hopefully it'll go away, but sometimes it doesn't. Okay, what else do we have? All right, Sandy says she's going through it now. Well, made the mistake of taking his call. Well, now you know what happens when you make the mistake, and you're not alone. Lots of people have made this mistake, and usually it doesn't take long to recognize that it is a mistake. So you start over. At this point, you start the program again, and now you know what happens if you break down and take a call, so you know not to do it anymore. But don't accept the flowers. If they're wherever they're being delivered, turn them away. Don't answer the texts. Don't answer the calls, and just, you had a relapse, so start over, and this time be committed to remaining strong. Okay. Do sociopaths ever date other sociopaths? Yeah, sometimes they do. And it's kind of like, throwing gasoline on a fire in some cases. It is possible for sociopaths to find each other. In fact, it actually happens fairly often. So, yes, that's the answer there. Okay, Toby says, I have an opportunity to meet my ex's first wife. Should I ask her about him, compare notes, or keep quiet? Well, a lot of people have found it helpful to be able to discuss the person in common. I know that after I figured out that my ex-husband was cheating on me, I actually called one of his mistresses, and we became best of friends. We worked together to try and figure out what else my ex was up against. I've heard from quite a few people who have had that experience, that when they talked to the ex, it got a lot of questions answered, and really filled in the blanks in a lot of cases. But I've also heard of situations where, like, the ex is still in love and still wants the person back. And so I guess you could try it and, broach a little bit and see what happens. Because in all honesty, it could go either way, and you won't know until you actually ask a question or start a conversation and see what happens. So again, just try it out if you want, and if you're up for it, and it could be very validating, or it could also turn out to be a bad idea. So there's really no way to predict that. You'll just have to kind of see what happens. So, okay, well, that looks like all the questions that we have for tonight. I thank you all so much for joining me, and we'll be back here for Lovefraud Live next Tuesday as well. See you then.